Hey everybody, Zelcher here, and I've got some pretty big news. Last month, as many of you know, I made a video about the lost English version of the Young Girls of Rochefort. Well, I'm happy to announce that this version of the film has finally been found. Kinda. It's complicated. I guess we should first start off with some corrections I need to make to the original video. Now, for the most part, I had some pretty minor mistakes, things like pronouncing foreign words. Despite my best efforts, my French pronunciation is not great, and y'all definitely let me know in the comments. So to avoid that fiasco, I got professional French translator and Twitch streamer Cash Money Dollars to pronounce French phrases going forward. Hopefully it'll make talking about
Les Demoiselles de Rochefort
a lot easier going forward. And hey, if she messes up, you can direct all your comments to this channel right here. Moving along, these Brazilian channels I mentioned are actually all the same channel, just for different regions, as many of you pointed out. Meaning, contrary to what I said, they should all have the same programming. At the end of the day, most of the information in that video is still accurate. However, it's what I didn't put into the video that's the problem here. During the intro of the video, I do this dramatic bit where I mention that this film was only released in US theaters for a short time, and then it was never seen again. Well, unbeknownst to me, that was not true. On June 3rd, 1972, ABC TV Channel 7 broadcast this film in the US, and I somehow missed this completely. It took a few days, but some people did inform me about this fact down in the comments. Some comments were kind and even steered me in the right direction to find more information, while others were very catty and mean. Like, what are we doing here? If you notice, this guy didn't even make the original comment. He's just replying to someone else. I bet his ass didn't even know this, he's just piggybacking off someone else. Jokes aside, he is right. I can try and excuse myself by saying that I'm a small channel, or I'm only doing this as a hobby, but what I'm creating here is informational content. And if I'm giving you bad information or faulty information, that's not great. I often criticize other video essay channels for faulty information, so I'd be a hypocrite to not hold myself to the same standard. My bad, y'all. Common Zelcher L, as my fans say. The existence of this broadcast does tie up a few loose ends, that being that the footage used in the documentary and the clips on YouTube are both most likely from this broadcast on ABC. Thankfully, the absence of this information did not hinder the discovery, which, again, came just a few days after posting the video. On July 20th, a viewer contacted me via email stating that they too had been looking for the English version of the film all the way back in the 90s. And by a stroke of luck, around 10 to 15 years ago, they managed to get their hands on a copy of the broadcasted English version. However, it is only the last 47 minutes. And as you can see, the quality isn't the best. Still though, this is a huge discovery. We've more than quadrupled the amount of footage we had before. And more importantly, we have a few more musical numbers available to us, including the exact song I wanted to see.
To love this life, to love the flowers, to love the sunshine and the showers, to love the tears, to love the joke, to love the green fields and the smoke.
One of the things I like about this discovery is actually the person who sent me the footage. His name is Hisato, and he describes himself as a film buff since grade school, with particular interest in older films like this one. And his love for film grew as he went to college. However, during this time, the films he wanted to see had very limited home releases or TV broadcasts, and the bootleg market had bad quality copies, so he opted to find 16mm prints instead. And by a stroke of luck, he found a vendor that was selling this exact version. And so, here we are. Now, I'm not too knowledgeable on how print transfers work, so I'm just gonna go over what he wrote. The transfer is an older one, with helicopter noises in the picture still inherent because of the 5-blade shutter belt, which was worn out a tad. Hence the speed of the shutter fluctuated a bit. If you are not familiar with this system, 16mm projectors with 5-blade shutters are used to transfer film onto TV format. Lastly, inspired by my own analysis, Hisato also noticed some differences in the musical number performances. There is one glaring difference in Solange's performance. After Maxon leaves her when she didn't laugh at his joke, in the French film, she just shrugs twice with a stern look and leaves. But in the English version, she shrugs and then smiles before leaving. Most of my observations were just goofs found between different takes, but this one actually has different emotional implications for the characters. Now, it's not some story-altering change or anything, but it is neat and it makes this version even more interesting. I've uploaded all of this footage to the Internet Archive if you want to check it out. I tried putting it on YouTube, but it got taken down pretty quickly, so this is the best I can do. But surprisingly, that's not where our story ends. You see, not only was there a broadcast in the US, but that broadcast has been fully archived this entire time. Shout out to this one guy who just casually dropped this bombshell of a fact that the New York Public Library has a copy of the film, specifically the ABC broadcast. It is shocking that this has gone under the radar for literal decades. And it's not just because of my faulty research. Keep in mind, I was in contact with other people who have been doing much more research for much longer, and I talked to someone who literally worked on the film, and no one knew this existed. So yeah, shout out to libraries in general. Keep them funded. Now that we know where it is, why don't we take a look at this newly discovered full-length film? Well, that's gonna be a little hard. When I first found out about this, I immediately contacted them to ask about seeing the film. However, the tapes are part of their research catalog, specifically as items that can only be seen on site. Shoot. This makes the film less accessible to most people, but since I lived close enough, I figured I could make an appointment and tell y'all how it went. Originally, I envisioned myself taking a trip down and filming the event for this video. They weren't going to let me take the footage home, but I could at least confirm that they were in fact archived. But judging by the fact that I'm still here, that didn't happen. I started off by making an appointment on the website. I got an email a few days later telling me the tapes were unfortunately under restricted access due to their condition, but I could still make an appointment to watch a digitized version. Cool, no problem, let's make that appointment. They said they'll get into contact with the digital preservation team, and they'll get back to me with a date to go see it. A few days go by, and they tell me that the team still hasn't gotten back to them for some reason. No worries, I got time. A full 2 weeks go by, and I receive an email telling me that the reason for the delay is because the tapes have never actually been digitally preserved. Meaning, if I understand this correctly, I've been the only person who has access to see these films ever. Now, I'm still going through the whole process of getting them preserved at the library, meaning I have to send in a request to get it done, and I have to pay the fee to do it. Okay, so update on this. As I was finishing this video, I got an email back after sending in all my forms saying that I just need clearance from the copyright holders. And as you can guess, I don't have that. Now, these forms I sent in were to make a duplicated copy of the digital file, as in I would have my own personal copy. Can't do that anymore, so I'm gonna go back and try and make an appointment at the library itself. I hope they still make a digital archive of the film, even if I can't see it. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. Check the comments for any updates. Now, we've talked a lot about the TV broadcast of this film, but remember, this English version did get a theatrical release. And for more information on that, I got in contact with another one of my viewers, Bruce. Actually, not just a viewer of this video, but someone who ends up in every video about the English version of Rochefort. What made him an interesting subject is that he claimed to have a copy of not the Pan and Scan broadcast, but of an IB Technicolor print. Just like Hisato, he was an avid collector of 16mm prints, and around the year 1977, someone showed and offered him the print of the film. Sadly, Bruce sold the print to someone else, and around 8 years ago, that person passed away, and whatever happened to his collection remains a mystery. An unfortunate situation, but at least we now know that a Technicolor print of the English version both exists and is still out there somewhere. But why stop at just 16mm when apparently 70mm prints of this version exist? According to Bruce, the US only had a limited release of the film in select theaters that weren't equipped for anything higher than 16mm. However, there is evidence to suggest that both Japan and even the UK had screenings of these 70mm prints. You can see it labeled on these old posters. It's a long shot, but these prints could potentially still be out there somewhere. So while some footage has been found, and the whole film is even archived, the search still continues. And not just for this film. More updates. We love updates. Remember when I mentioned the Umbrellas of Cherbourg also had an English version? Well, as I was finishing the video, it was found. On July 2nd, Remy Caramel was interviewed on the podcast
C'est la voix.
hosted by his friend Mathieu Fichot. On the podcast, Remy talked about his work in dubbing studios, his passion for the art form, and even mentioned the search for the English dubs of both films. Another friend of his, Nicolas Engel, himself a lyricist and documentary director, was listening in and realized that he had a copy of Cherbourg in English. He acquired both a VHS copy and a 16mm reel of the film back when he lived in Hong Kong. He promptly sent him the footage, and you can find clips of it over on Remy's blog,
Dans l'ombre des studios.
along with some background information on the dubbing process. Unlike Cherbourg, this film is a full-on dub. Scenes have not been reshot just for the English version, because the whole movie is just singing.
But I never could go on without you, dear.
I think it'd be a daunting task to shoot the whole film twice just for mouth movements to sync up. It's just not worth it. Also, unlike Rochefort, Jacques Demy and Michel Legrand weren't present during recordings, and singers were instead conducted by someone else who they describe as rather unpleasant. As a whole, there's a lot less information on this film than Rochefort, evident by the fact that no one even knows who voices Genevieve, one of the main characters of the film.
I mentioned to Mama we want to marry now. Of course she said to me that I was a fool, and when she said I was not to see you tonight, it was just too much for me.
Judging by her performance, it's led some to believe she wasn't even a native English speaker. Again, if you want to learn more about this film's dubbing, check out Remy's blog
Dans l'ombre des studios.
down below. Now, just like the New York Public Library, this film will not be made public online. You need to remember that these films are still under copyright protection by major movie studios. This isn't like Penis 1967, where pretty much no one owns it. Rochefort and Cherbourg are still films that you have to legally buy, even if they aren't even selling this specific version. Yeah, I know it sucks, but hopefully we can find some solace in the fact that these dubs do exist, they are out there, and they're being archived along with all the information we have on them. It may be hard to watch them, but we can safely say that these dubs are no longer completely lost. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. Sorry this took so long. On top of the process of contacting the library dragging out so much, I also got COVID, and then a few weeks later I got sick again with something different, which I have right now. Anyways, thank you to all my patrons as per usual. You guys are real ones. And thank you to Cash Money Dollars over on Twitch for helping me pronounce French phrases correctly. And of course, thank you to Hisanto for providing the footage of the lost English dub. Genuinely amazing find, thank you. With all that said, I hope to see you guys in the next video.